want to welcome you to another episode of Mindset Growth Podcast. I'm your host, Gary. I have Heather, my co-host, with me here today. We're excited for this episode. It's been a wonderful day.
So excited to talk about life not being fair, Gary.
That's right. Seems like it isn't fair for anyone, right?
Oh, it never is. It's all a matter of perspective.
That's right. It doesn't take us long to look around current events and things that are going on around us. We see this happen to people all the time. And it's how we bounce back, rebound, and adjust that makes all the difference. When I think of life not being fair, I usually, one of the first things that come to my attention is that we make excuses.
Right.
And often the excuses start to take us down a path that it feels like it's harder than what it really is. And they're not good options for us.
To me, when I think of people that use that excuse of just life isn't fair, I feel like they're walking around with blinders on, looking for reasons that, well, this should have been me, instead of what did I do differently, or what did that person do differently that they got maybe this award or recognition or whatever it may be. And I just feel like there's been a lot of that in my life previously, and I've looked, not necessarily me personally, but there was a person in my life for a while that would just not, I mean, the life isn't fair. That's not fair. They're not being treated the same.
Right.
Not everybody is treated the same. That's never going to be a reality.
A couple of things that you said there strike me. One, you said there was a person. I have to believe that was draining for you.
It was very draining.
So it's got to be past tense. Mm-hmm. So I want people to note that, because we talk a lot about the people we surround ourselves with,
right,
where it takes us to in life. And I think that's so important that you focus or pay attention to that.
It's so easy when you have a person like that around you to start thinking that way at first, until you take that step back and be like, no, this isn't appropriate. This isn't right. This isn't the situation. So to go ahead and go down that rabbit hole can be very tempting.
Right.
Too. But
I think another aspect of that can be, it feels comfortable sometimes to just wallow a bit.
Yeah.
It feels like that warm fuzzy, but it's like that bottomless pit. Mm-hmm. Because every time I do it, I feel like I fall deeper.
Yeah.
It's not improving. So the other thing that I pick up from you, that statement you made then, is you also took action in changing who you're around and how you mentally focus yourself.
You don't realize how draining it is on you when you are constantly around negativity.
Right.
You don't understand until you are away from it, and you just feel that weight has lifted, and you look back and you're like, man, why did I wait so long?
Right. There's something that goes on in our mind when we're proactive, and there's a whole different thing that goes on when we're negative, or I should say positive, not proactive. But when we're positive, it's a different shift. And it's just an athlete running. If they take off going down the hill, they're going to gain more momentum than they will going uphill, and they're going to feel more accomplished. And I'm just kind of using that as a metaphor, but it's the same way in our mind. That's what it does in our mind when we go negative. It's like, we're going up the hill and we don't go as far, and we're just drained. Maybe that's a poor metaphor.
I'm kind of following you there, but
so that's interesting. But no, life isn't fair. We hear kids say it all the time. I'm sure both of us as kids, when we were kids, we did the same thing.
But at the same time, getting into the medical field here,
Yes.
That frontal lobe for kids, that's not developed yet. So it is like they're walking around with blinders, really.
Right.
And us as parents can be like, well, yeah, your sister got ice cream tonight because she finished her supper. You know, like it's pretty easy to understand why you didn't. You didn't do what was expected of you. But that child's mentality is only seeing what they didn't get.
Right. You're exactly right. That is a big piece of it. And that doesn't really develop at all until they're 7. And then according to the studies that I follow and read, and then from 7 to 15, it starts to really develop even to another level. And then, of course, girls tend to probably wise up a little quicker than boys. But still, it can take us into our 20s until we really develop that whole reasoning and that frontal lobe.
I believe it's like, is it age 25?
Something,
where it's supposed to be fully developed.
And I know certain traumas can cause that to delay.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting how much people can focus on that. And again, yesterday I'm having a conversation with a person and they were like, but 40 years ago, the opportunities were better. Mm-hmm. That's not true. Yes. The opportunities are whatever you decide you're going to make them. It doesn't matter if it's today, 100 years ago. We are people of choice and we can do that. One thing that I always is in my mind and I think about, and that is our friend Matt Stutzman, who we had on this episode in August, heading back to the Paralympics for the 4th time, born without arms.
Right.
The epitome of life not being fair.
Right.
And then his father not wanting him, putting him up for adoption because he just didn't know what to do with him. Being adopted by another family, that family treated him like he had arms and had to do chores. And what that developed and the fortitude that created is absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
However, and I won't go into the whole thing, the interesting part about life not being fair, he talks about on that episode about sitting on his couch basically sulking because he couldn't even support his own family.
Yeah.
Once he had kids. But the desire to not stay in there, he went out, met new people, got into archery, and now the entire world knows about the armless archer.
Do you remember why he picked up a bow?
Yes. He simply wanted to feed his family.
He was hungry.
He was hungry and he was driven. That's what motivated him. And he actually shooting a bow by pulling the string with his teeth, killed a deer.
Amazing.
It is totally amazing. It is totally amazing.
Now let's talk about life not being fair and the opportunities that he has made for himself.
His life today, there's no way to measure it, is probably better that he has no arms than it would be if he had them.
Yeah.
It's not easier, but the recognition, the fame and fortune, if you will, if that's what people want. I don't think everybody does, but if that's what they want, and really the finances and the revenue that sponsors and people have rallied behind him.
And the inspiration.
But I want to point this out. It's not because he doesn't have arms. That's not why he's picking up sponsors and going to that's why he's going to the Paralympics. It's not why he's earning money. He's earning money because he didn't stay down and wallow in his own mess.
Right.
He got up and pushed forward. He got new friends. He set goals and he was driven and he just started driving through all those things that changed everything.
Well, he's such a charismatic and energetic and all of those things where he could, and an inspiration. Gosh, how he gave us some stats. There's, he was maybe not the first.
He was the first.
He was the first. Okay.
He was the first that professionally did it.
Yes.
He's seen a video of somebody else shooting a bow.
And now there's kids doing it in the Paralympics.
Yes.
It's just amazing. But think about him saying life's not fair and just staying in the gutter.
People in other countries are now competing and finding purpose in life because they've come across what he's done. And he went from sulking on the couch to being in the Olympics in under 24 months.
That's unreal.
An incredible feat. I just, when I think about that, I believe everybody has that option to make that choice. I don't think life deals us the cards.
Yeah.
We get to play them.
There you go.
It's how we choose to play the deck. Kenny Rogers had something for us there.
You got to know when to hold them.
Yes. And it's such a metaphoric statement in that song because that's life in general. I like to play cards, so it resonates with me. For those of you that play other things, relate it to what fits for you, but that's big. Playing with the cards that are dealt to us in life.
All right.
I sometimes wonder, and I want your perspective on this, Heather, how much better do we become as people by going through the hardships, broken relationships, disappointing job experiences, physical disappointments?
I don't think that there's one thing that I can look back on. And during the time, seemed horrible. Such a horrible ordeal. You hate it when you're in it. You're in the mud. You're going through it. It's terrible. Once you make it onto that other side, there's never been a single time that I haven't learned something from that experience. I can look back and point to it and say, but this is where I learned to focus on, whatever it may be.
Separately, I'm Gage.
And I'm Bontrager.
Together, we are Gage Bontrager Consulting.
We work on changing your mindset,
Developing leaders,
building systems and processes,
helping you grow personally and professionally
to achieve the success that you want personally and professionally.
however you choose to define success for you.
Reach out to us and follow us on social media or look us up on the website, and that will put you on a path to achieve what is missing in your life.
Thanks for watching this episode of Mindset Growth Podcast.
You only fail if you don't learn from what happened. Every mistake, every failure that you've done that has been what people would look at as a failure is only a failure if you did not learn from it. I believe that so strongly. If anybody listens to our podcast, hears me speak, I talk about my failures a lot. But I am so grateful for each one. I'm so grateful for each experience, because if I did not have those experiences, I could not help others who are struggling through those same difficult times in life.
Right. Creates empathy and understanding, and not everybody is blessed with the gift of empathy for others, and that does show sometimes, but I can say that there are things that I look back on and definitely say, yeah, I would have done that differently now. Absolutely. And we all have that, but it's all part of the journey, part of the experience.
But you now do it differently.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't know that if you naturally had done it. I think back to when the kids were playing sports. One coach in particular was a phenomenal D1 athlete, but he was one of the poorer teachers in teaching the kids the game.
Yeah. And
I think he just had so damn much natural talent. He didn't even understand how he was so good. It was hard for him to, he was like, just get the reps in, you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
But some kids, we needed to teach the mechanics, how to throw a ball and swing a bat and do things like that. So sometimes I think, I know when I get asked, what are my qualifications and what education do I have? The number one is experience. If you don't go through all that hardship, if you don't go through all those failures, if you don't make those mistakes, you don't learn. I'm on a call with a client yesterday, and he's struggling about how to set up the decision-making process and how to be an effective leader and not overstep and, like feel like he's just, on somebody's back all the time and giving them the control they need. And I just shared with him once, I allowed somebody to basically one day make a decision that cost me $40,000. And of course, that person quit and left almost immediately. But I was there to pick up the pieces for the next few years and repay that debt. Now, I have different checks and balances today that I have back then.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't pay a college tuition in the traditional sense, but I paid part of it that day. And to this day, I now can help people put systems, processes in place because of that failure. And life wasn't fair.
Yep.
I wouldn't trade that experience for anything.
Maybe $40,000 back in your pocket, but
I wouldn't have learned the lesson if I hadn't lost it. And and it was worth a lot more money back then than it is today. So it was a very substantial amount. But that's why I think I don't even feel a twinge of bitterness and frustration towards even that person for that, because it taught me so much and I learned so well. One of the things that happen when we shift out of life's not fair is our confidence.
Yeah.
And I want to focus on that just as we wrap this up, is your confidence will change your aptitude completely every time. When life's not fair, we are not confident. I want you to think about, and I would ask anybody listening to this on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being very confident, 1 being very, very weak. Where are you at on that scale? I will guarantee you, you're either delusional, arrogant, something's going on if you believe you're above the midline and you're having this, I've got to blame somebody for life not being fair. Confident people do not do that.
Right.
Confident people take ownership. They learn from what's happening. They adjust. They pivot. They move on. They move forward. And they take what they've learned and make decisions. Same client said, well, I tend to make too quick a decisions. I made a decision to do this, and then I went to this, and now I'm back to this. I said, so what's wrong with that? Well, it was just in a period of time, I made 3 decisions. And I said, no, you made a decision to try something new to see if it would work better. It didn't work. And you had the leadership to go back and modify the original version because it was clearly better than what you had tried. You swung for the fence. It didn't work. Yeah. You adapted and you adjusted. I said, that's not a failure and that's not a negative. That's a positive. And I think that's often what we see with confidence. It totally shifts a person completely. So confidence, one of the big differences too that I see with confident people, and I've got friends that are in the same space I'm in. There's a lot of people, and sometimes it seems like people are born with it. I don't really buy it completely. I think it's how people maybe carry themselves a little bit more in their physiology. But if you start to look as years pass, you can kind of see where it's at. But parents can have a lot to do with it. Environment can have a lot to do with it. Parents clearly would be environment. But then even at some point when you're out on your own, the decisions you make really influence your confidence, and it really comes back to your circle of friends and who you surround yourself with. But I know personally, if I'm not feeling confident, the first thing I think of to change that is what's my posture. And as I'm saying this, I feel like I need to sit up in the chair and put my shoulders back, because it certainly changes how I feel like I'm going to present to the people I meet, If I know that I'm being what I feel cornered and put in a tough spot, and I know I'm maybe going to have to go out and face something, immediately the first thing I think of is get your shoulders back and your head up. I tend to hunch. That's just my tendency. Yours may, other people may have different ones, but I know my physiology changes my confidence. How I dress, how I carry myself, my posture, all those things. Mm-hmm. And what I now realize, we talk about kids and development. My father would try to teach me that, because even as a 5, 6, 7-year-old boy, I remember him telling me, when you shake somebody's hand, you look them in the eye. You stand up and look them in the eye, and he'd give me, what phrases I should say to them. And I didn't understand that for years and years, what he was trying to do. And of course, I'd lost him and couldn't go back later and ask him. So I had to just take that time to figure it out. But it's amazing how that will shift our confidence.
Yeah. It's funny that you bring that up, because I just had this conversation with my son probably 3 days ago or so, about, he is a confident kid. He can also really get down on himself.
Right.
And I was just talking to him about, hey, head up, put your shoulders back, look like you know what you're doing. And so with him being 9, he needed to know exactly how far his shoulders needed to go back. Do they, it's like, no, you need to be comfortable and relaxed, but just present yourself in a way that you're not looking down at the ground. You're looking at people, and it's interesting conversations with these little ones when they need to know the exact, and I think that they can get the overall picture, but they mind down to those little details.
They really do. Their world's a lot smaller, so they can focus on those more than we do. And it's great that you bring that up. As a parent, I would try to relate them back to maybe a public figure that they like to watch a lot.
Yeah.
If they're into wrestling, they could watch how the Hulk carries himself. Mm-hmm. If they're into baseball, how does Derek Jeter walk? Football, there's all kinds of people, but you're seeing those people carry themselves very well physically.
Yeah.
Because there's a high level, and I'm just using athletes more or less, but there's a high level.
And they're also not going around saying life isn't fair.
No, not very often. Occasionally we have that happen. And it usually...
And how does the public look at them when they are thrown
very
that?
poorly?
Yeah.
Very poorly.
Yeah.
It usually alienates their fan base, mm-hmm. or shrinks it. So it's not positive for a positive result at all when they say that. Just in closing and to wrap this up, one thing that works really well for me is to grab a notepad and journal and write down some of those things where life's not fair. But I also like to grab that same notepad as I go through those things and start to write down all the positive and great things that are in my life. And a small, quick story I'm going to share with you. For some reason, a number of years back when I got into cycling or road bikes, and I would physically go out and pedal and exert myself, it seemed like all the negativity would come back rushing over me of everybody that I felt screwed me over from childhood on. And to overcome that, I started to go down the list, name by name of my kids and other people who were very loving and close to me in my life. And I would name 2 and 3 things that those people did that I respected and loved so well. All I did is change my focus from internal to external. You can try that exercise and see if that makes a difference for you. But if we start to focus on the positives and the great things in our life and building confidence, the life's not fair will disappear and fade away. It often will come back, but you'll be in a position then to control it and manage it much better. I hope this helps, and thank you for watching Mindset Growth Podcast.